So I'm about to put this onto my dyno, and anybody that follows the page knows that I have one dyno and I'm now building a second. But somebody in the comment section, this was a couple of weeks ago, said, I'd really like to build a dyno. Can you show me how you built yours? And where I'm not going to show all the sensors and everything, I will show you the mechanical construction of how I built this thing and explain some of the advantages that I have with it and some of the downfalls that it has. So, you guys ready? So, starting from this area, this is where the engines get cradled into. So this plate slides off, the engine slides on, and then it gets bolted in place. Now, this is an engine dyno, but it actually runs off of the output shaft. So we're going to treat it more like a wheel dyno. All right? So get a shot back here so you can see what it looks like. So the drive chain goes back to here. Now, one of the problems with a positively coupled dyno, and so there's the weight down there, that's 700 pounds of rotational mass. One of the problems is if for some reason you should break something in the motor should lock up, and you're positively coupled, that weight is going to tear your motor apart. So you're going to need to put in, this is a PTO overdrive clutch or override clutch. And what it does is it allows the motor to turn the dyno, but does not allow the dyno to turn the motor. Basically, this will ratchet, okay? So it gets driven, and I'll explain this here in a second. It gets driven back here, goes through the PTO override clutch, and then to the sprocket, or to the sprocket back here, and the chain that goes down to the main shaft. And then I pick up my main shaft RPM down there. So one thing that's a big drawback with this setup is the fact that if you have a poorly tuned engine where the porting doesn't work with the pipe or the carburetor's not working right, the motor will tend to lunge. And you can see this on bikes that are on wheel dynos. But the thing about a bike on a wheel dyno is the bike has its rear suspension, so it can do this action, it can do some squatting, and the bike can move forward a bit because of the stretch of the straps, and you have the rubber tire that takes up a lot of the shock. If it lunges on this style, it's going to break a transmission if it lunges hard enough, and I've had that happen. Like I said, if the tuning isn't right, you can run into problems. So I had to get some sort of shock absorption in this thing, and I went through a bunch of different iterations, and then one day I'm just scrolling and I come across manual transmissions, and I'm like, oh, wait a second. So there was no application that I could use to fit on this, so I made this. So what happens is the sprocket is actually attached to this side. So the sprocket is attached to this side, and the sprocket floats on the shaft. This side over here is keyed onto the shaft, and I just used heavy-duty 250R springs in here, and you can see the slots. So if when the motor starts to run, and I've run a high-speed camera on this before, when you're actually starting into a pass, it starts to compress the springs down a little bit, and if the motor starts to lunge on it, the springs will take up that shock and not put it all the way through from the sprocket, the output shaft, into this assembly. So this basically is the shock absorber, and that cured that problem. So now what I can do is I'll make a pass, and if I see the motor starting to do a little bit of lunging on there, then I'll go through and I'll change. A lot of times it's the timing curve. Sometimes it can be pipe, where the pipe doesn't match with the port work, or the pipe just doesn't match with the whole setup. Now that I'm building pretty much my motors all the time, either the Lynx motor I designed or the Toyger motor. I've got those all dialed in where I know which pipes and which carburetors, the timing curves and everything, and then I just tweak that a little bit to get the motor optimized. Sometimes you have to tweak it more than a little bit. Engines are like people. They're all different. So you gotta, even if they look the same, they're all different. Anyway, so what this does here is this takes up the shock. The reason why I really like this thing over my chassis dynos is because since the engine sets up here, it's super easy to get into this thing and pull the head off and pull the cylinder off, do carburetor adjustments. I can go onto this side with the clutch cover that I designed, and I can pop that off really easily and get in and change the clutch. So instead of having to work around a chassis, I can work on the engine really quickly and get that all set up. So I really like the design. This is just the downfall of it was just the lunging and the fact that it's directly coupled. Now the next dyno that I'm building is actually going to be a water brake dyno. It'll be a similar configuration to this, where you can get in and work on the engine really easily, but it's going to be water brake because inertias are good, but water brakes are better. And I know people are going to be like, oh, no, that's not true. But then guys that have had both, a water brake or a load cell dyno gives you more tuning options than what an inertia does. So that's my next one that I'm going to build. But I hope you guys have found this informational and everything. This is how I did it. This isn't the only way. This isn't the right way. It's just the way that I did it. If you guys have done dynos in the past and you've been super successful with them and it has a lot less problems, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section. Maybe you could make a video of your setup and show me, because here's the thing, we all start out knowing nothing, and then we learn stuff as we go along. And normally, like Einstein said, I can show you 7,280 ways not to make a light bulb, okay? But if he would have stopped at 7,280 ways, he would have never been known for making the light bulb. So you just got to persist. Anyways, thanks guys. Make sure like, share, and subscribe.